Hello, I am delighted to hear that a wonderful program called Portsmouth This Week is about to tape its 200th program. It seems like just yesterday that we taped the inaugural program. We thought at the time that there was a need to have a weekly television program so that Portsmouth residents could hear firsthand from municipal officials, senior staff, elected officials, and others about not only what was happening, but why. But while the concept of a program seemed to have merit, actually producing the program every week was something else. As your former town administrator, I was so extraordinarily blessed to have a cadre of dedicated volunteers who do all the work to get a program out every week. Led by the captain, Doug Smith, Gary Gump, Rich Talipsky, the mayor, Bob Hamilton, Dave Miller, and others. What you guys have accomplished is simply incredible. And now that my wife and I live a long way away from Portsmouth in South Carolina, I regularly and fondly remember my friends at Portsmouth This Week. And I know how special these citizens of Portsmouth really are. To Doug and Gary and Rich and Bob and Dave and the other volunteers, I share the thanks of all of the citizens of Portsmouth in saying, 200 shows and counting. You guys are making a difference every week. Job well done.
Okay, count and go.
I'm Smith, and I'd like to welcome you to the first edition of Portsmouth This Week, a weekly discussion with Portsmouth Town Administrators. We started Portsmouth This Week back in 2012 at the request of the then new town administrator, John Clem, as a means to inform Portsmouth residents of what was going on around town. Gary Gump, Rich Talipsky, and I met in John Clem's office to discuss what we could do as volunteers to help tell people what's happening. Coming to Portsmouth from Barnstable, Massachusetts, John told us that he had had a full-time TV studio in the town hall that was accessible to him to use any time to tell people about Barnstable, what was going on. We mentioned to him that we had a local Rhode Island public access TV studio right here in Portsmouth, PEG TV, and it aired on Cox Channel 18, so for just about anybody to see it. Afterwards, we went over and talked to Brian Medeiros, the manager of the PEG studio, and started to put together a team of volunteers to produce a weekly show about events, organizations, and issues that Portsmouth residents would be interested in.
Portsmouth This Week is one of the best uses of PEG Access TV that I've seen. It's this great resource for town officials, school officials to communicate with the people of the town, answer their questions about how things work. It's a great opportunity for local nonprofits to come on the program and get their word out. It's this great free resource to the town.
There was a definite division of labor in this, but Rich Talipsky was our key guy, doing all the directing and editing, and then ultimately posting every 30-minute show to YouTube where it was accessible to anybody, and it gave a great view to people in Portsmouth about what's going on. Links to all 200 of those shows are up on the town website that you can go and look at anytime. And Barbara Ripa, Rich Rayner's, the current town administrator's secretary, has been great about keeping those posted on the town website.
Well, when we first started, I was concerned that we had a great group of volunteers, but with little or no video production experience. But people picked up the particular jobs of being like a camera operator, a sound mixer, graphics, and each quickly learned their jobs and worked on honing their skills, and they've since developed into a great team where we can quickly get ready for a program in a few minutes, either right at the studio and even sometimes on a remote location.
The show is taped just like a live TV program. As the host, it's my job to develop questions for our guests beforehand, and then to try to keep the discussion on track and within our time constraints of 30 minutes per program. This is not always easy, and sometimes I had to really stretch things out to meet that 30-minute time frame. The guys in the cameramen in the studio had earphones on so they could hear the director for instructions, but they could also hear all the jokes that I'm sure were emanating from the guys in the control room about me when I started to editorialize and kind of go off script just to keep the thing rolling. Our cameraman, one of our cameramen, Bob Hamilton, I could usually hear him snickering when something funny was said in the background.
My position with the Portsmouth This Week crew is to explain first. We used 3 cameras for the production. One is a static camera that's on our host, Doug Smith, all the time. Camera 2 films both Doug and the guest, and that's static. And my camera, camera 3, I'm on the guest. Normally we have 1 guest, quite often we have 2, we've even had 3 on occasion. On the occasions that we have 2 guests, I would be responsible for filming both of them. At the call of the director, he would make either camera 1 or camera 2 live and turn my camera off to give me enough time to go in and refocus. And occasionally we have graphics, in which case I would swing to an easel to pick up a graphic. We looked at a lot of different topics. We looked at everything from all the town departments, all the town administrators' departments, the Portsmouth Fire Department, Portsmouth Police Department.
One of our most watched programs was a tour of the fire station.
This week we're at the Portsmouth Fire Department, and our special guest today is Fire Chief Mike Cranston of the Fire Department. Thanks for coming aboard, Mike.
You're welcome, Doug. Thanks for having us.
We're right now in the dispatch room, which is kind of the central place where calls come in and where actions are taken and are started here. Okay, now we're in the apparatus section of the firehouse. Mike, this looks like one of your newer ambulances. It actually looks pretty nice inside. Can you talk to us about what kind of equipment you have here?
Absolutely. This is our brand new ambulance that we just recently purchased with the help of the Portsmouth volunteers.
Okay, Mike, I know every firehouse is supposed to have a pole, and this is your pole. How does this work? What do you need to do to get down there?
Well, we have both hands on the pole, and then what we do is we put the outside of our right leg up against the pole like that, and then the other leg will just wrap around like that. All right, and then with that, we're ready to go.
Okay.
We provided a video tour of our cramped police station. We used it in a campaign to educate voters who approved the construction of a new police station that is now undergoing architectural design.
Chief, you want to take us through from here?
Yeah, this is actually a police station, Doug.
Looks like a closet.
Okay. But this is a small, it's maybe 8 by 8. This is our lobby. Now, one of the issues we've talked about the building is people coming in here, whether they're going to make a police report here or if they're a witness to a crime, this is our only door for access. So oftentimes we'll have somebody here who's a witness to a crime. The person who committed the crime will be bailed out. We'll have to walk right through here.
Okay, so this cell block, and basically what do you have, 2 cells?
Four cells.
Yeah. 2 on each side?
2 on each side. And again, this is the old swinging door system that they had in the 1800s. We still use it. Actually, this was a recent addition when we just put this on this year. We have plexiglass So obviously prevent someone from trying to hang themselves on the bars. We didn't even have that before. So this is obviously in a modern police station, you have electronic sliding doors. If there was ever a fire or we have to evacuate the station, we do fill up every weekend, you have to come in here and physically open up every door with the old key to get people out. Wow. So it's just, the cell block is in need of renovation. And as part of the study that we talked about earlier and looking at the building, this is something we also have to consider is modernizing our cell block or replacing.
Do you have cameras watching this?
We do. We have a camera in every cell. We have cameras.
Okay, and that's part of what the guy's seeing in there.
Yes, he's watching that. So we do monitor the prisoners via camera. Yeah. And everything's recorded from the moment we're ready.
This is a combination of everything. Our mechanical room. It's also where our telephone communication equipment comes in from the outside world to the inside world. It's also our water, domestic water, hot water, our emergency radio communications. It's where we also store our patrol bags because we don't have adequate space in our locker room.
Public Works Department, we even did the voter registrar prior to the voting season.
The purpose of having this information night is to alleviate some of the anxiety that people may have about the November election, to familiarize you with the new equipment that that will be used. It is important, and it is a good habit to look on both sides of a ballot. In a general election, the referenda are often put on the back.
Aside from elections, you have a lot of other responsibilities, and I wonder if you could just talk a little bit about what is your job?
Yeah, no, so literally I am the Secretary of the State. That has historically been kind of like a filing cabinet with 4 different areas. We have elections. I am the Chief State Election Official, but my elections duties are limited to the Central Voter Registration System and preparing the ballot. Actual election day is handled by the State Board of Elections along with the local boards of canvassers in every community. I also have the business services operation for the state. So whenever a company gets started, they come and incorporate with the Secretary of State's office. And so we have a lot of programs and resources for small business people who are trying to grow their business or start their business here in Rhode Island. Transparency and open government is a big area as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I was able to pass lobby reform legislation, and because lobbyists have to register with my office, and we really significantly tightened that. Open government, we have the open meetings portal, which is basically has all the information of any government meeting that's held in the state, whether it be at the local level or at the statewide level, has to be posted with the Secretary of State's website. And finally, the state archives and the state library, which have incredible treasures of Rhode Island history. And so my whole mission really is to make sure that with all of these resources, that we make sure that government is working for people and that people feel that government is working for them. And so really turning it into a hub of information for people as opposed to just sort of a sedentary filing cabinet.
Yeah. We did Project Purple and the Portsmouth Prevention Coalition a couple times.
I'm your temporary host, Bob Poniatowski, sitting in for Doug Smith. And I'm very happy today to welcome a couple of people who are working very, very hard to service our youth in the county. They are Ray Davis, the coordinator of the Portsmouth Prevention Coalition, and next to him, Rebecca Elwell. She's the coordinator in Tiverton, nearby town. That's the town right across the river, isn't it?
That's right.
So I'm going to take a point of view that people out there don't know or don't know enough about what you do, and it's very important what you do. Ray, what is the Prevention Coalition?
In 1987, the Rhode Island legislature introduced the Bramley Act, which created a substance abuse prevention task force, is what they called it back then, in every town in Rhode Island to deal with, it was primarily smoking, was the initial impetus for this being created.
Yeah.
That's continued to be evolved over the years, where every community has a substance abuse prevention coalition, we call them now, which is made up of community volunteers and community members who have a vested interest in substance abuse prevention, and a lot of that's directed primarily at adolescents.
Our local political representatives at the State House, and just a wide variety of topics. One of the ones that we particularly enjoyed doing was our 375th.
Is the greatest ever to see so many people out here in the town I've grown up and I so love. What a thrill to be our Grand Marshal. Thank you very much.
Hey, now I'm here with the Lord Mayor of Portsmouth, England, Lynn Stagg. Lynn, what do you think of our parade today?
Absolutely fantastic and just wonderful, really wonderful.
It's really, and we actually got to do a couple of those shows internationally. We did them over in Portsmouth, UK, and they aired here in Portsmouth, Rhode Island.
Well, greetings from Portsmouth, UK.
Following the ceremony, Her Royal Highness was gracious in paying her respects to the D-Day veterans in attendance. The contingent from Rhode Island was very fortunate and honored to pay their respects to Her Royal Highness. So Gary Gump, who is really a jack of all trades, but primarily he is our scheduler with the important task of lining up programs.
And I've become more or less a scheduler recruiter, inviting other people to join us on our program. After 200 shows, the topics have become a little bit farther between. It's a little bit more difficult to find current topics for people to discuss, but we keep at it. This past year we had Nellie Gorbea come on, our Secretary of State, and she spoke with us about our upcoming election at the time this past November. It's interesting when we reach out and contact people to come join us on the show, the reactions we get. Sometimes we ask someone and they're like, I can't possibly do it because I can't speak. I lose my voice when I'm in front of a camera. And sometimes we ask someone to come join us and they'll say, well, what is there to talk about?
Our host, Doug Smith, has done a great job getting together with guests ahead of time and has a knack of making them feel comfortable when they're on camera. And I can't forget Bob Poniatowski, who has filled in as our host. Bob Hamilton is a great camera operator. Ray Keller is our primary sound engineer. Dave Miller can fill in with just about any task. And if you missed any of our 200 shows, well, here you go.
And it's been a pleasure. I think I'm doing something that gives me a little pride in giving something back to the community and giving the community something of interest through Portsmouth This Week.
I've been on the Portsmouth This Week crew now for a couple of years. I sometimes work as cameraman and sometimes do the sound. I enjoy doing it, and I think it's a worthwhile project and very valuable to the people of Portsmouth to let them know not only what's going on in the town, but how the town works, and perhaps just as importantly, to get to know some of the people behind the scenes that really make the town go, people that they otherwise would never see. People like the Director of Public Works, for example, or the school superintendent. And also, we hear from the dozens of organizations that are volunteer that also work in the town, the commissions, the boards, the volunteer groups, everybody from the Dog Park Commission to the Glen Park people to the commission to the Library Board of Trustees. And I think it's valuable to let the town citizens see those people, hear from them, know how their town works, and get to know them a little bit. I think that helps the cohesiveness of the town and makes it a better place to live.
In my career, I was a salesman. I enjoy interacting with people. This is a great job to do that. This is just a terrific opportunity to interact with a lot of people. And I'm looking forward to the next 100 programs. And who knows, maybe I'll reach out to you and ask you to come join us. Thanks for watching Portsmouth This Week.
And of course, Brian Medeiros, our PEG TV Newport County Station Manager, who manages to somehow keep us out of trouble. It's just been a great team to work with.
I really like doing this show. I like asking questions, and this gives me an opportunity to learn about a wide variety of topics that relate to what's going on locally. Our show is essentially a conversation between my guests and myself. And we decided at the outset that we would not be partisan or try to put our guests on the spot. And I think that helped us get many return visits. We hope that you enjoyed the last 5 years of these shows and learned a little bit about what's going on in our great community.
I'm Rich Rayner, Portsmouth Town Administrator, and I would like to offer my congratulations to Portsmouth This Week for reaching the milestone of their 200th show. Since 2012, Portsmouth This Week has been providing information to our citizens about important issues and programs in our town. I appreciate the hard work of our volunteers, host Doug Smith and Bob Ponitowski, our producer-director Rich Stlipsky, our program manager Gary Gump, and crew members Bob Hamilton, Dave Miller, and Ray Keller. These programs could not have been such a great success without the facilities of Rhode Island Public Education and Government TV System. PEG TV and the help of Brian Medeiros, our Newport County Station Manager, helped make all these shows possible. Thanks for all your great service. Keep up the great work.